Hello there, it's Jan from JB Crafts. Thank you for joining me today. I've got something sort of a little bit different again today. I saw this while I was browsing Pinterest and I thought I love this idea, and it's a great way of using up stash again, which is what the channel is all about. I love promoting using what we've got, and this is a combination of a card and a sort of a gift as well at the same time. So a little bit of both. And as I say, it's not my own idea. I saw the idea on Pinterest, but I've tweaked it a little bit to suit what I wanted. I wanted to sort of it to look like. So from the front, it looks like a card. And when we open it up, it's got the usual sentiment inside. It does stand. Okay, it's 5 by 7 in size, but the front bit here is just held together with a magnet, and it opens up. It's actually made from an envelope, and then inside here I've just got a little blank gift card. I've just stamped inside here, and I'll show you how I've done this. I've got a piece of tape running about here so that this is mainly sealed, and obviously the gift card didn't get lost inside the bottom, so it hits where it's sealed here, and it just sort of sits nicely for the recipient to receive. So yeah, a little bit of a, you know, a present cum card all in one. It will fit in a standard 5 by 7 envelope, and yeah, I'm going to show you how to make it right from the actual envelope. You could use a standard envelope, but you would need to back it well, because I think it would be a little bit flimsy. So I've made my envelope out of the textured cardstock, which is what I've used for the reverse of it here as well. I've just cut a piece and stuck it on the inside here. Now I think I might do the sample differently, just to show you a different closure if, for example, you don't have the magnets. This one's got a magnet under here and under the paper here, just to, if you hear the little snap closed. But I thought I'll show you something different today. I think I'm going to use some twine today, just in case you don't have access to the magnets, and I am just going to make it as an envelope, as a gift today. I'll talk you through how I did the back of it, but I'm not actually going to put the back on, I don't think. We'll see when we get there. So let's pop that to one side, and we'll start off the tutorial today by making the envelope. Now, I have in the past used my envelope from Crafter's Companion, and I have another product which again I've had a very long time, and I got this from Stamping Up years and years ago. A friend of mine used to work for Stamping Up, and I bought several items from her. This one comes out time and time again, and it's a different type of envelope maker, and you can make little tiny sort of 2 by 3.5 inch ones right up to 6 by 8. So all the different measurements are on here. If any of you have got this, let me know. Do you like it? Do you use it? It's a great little tool to have in your stash. I don't know whether it's still available, but I know there are other companies that make something very similar. So what I did was, first of all, decide what size card I wanted to make. And this comes up just slightly over. You can see it's about 5 1/8 by 7 1/4. So it would fit in, it would perhaps just need to be a little bit bigger than a 5 by 7 envelope, but yeah, we could sort that out. We could either make another envelope to pop it in, you could wrap it in tissue, anything like that. So for the 7 by 5, because it's an envelope, the reason it's slightly bigger is to fit the 7 by 5 card inside, but we've actually got that slightly larger measurement because we're using it as an envelope. So the first thing I did was have a look on my board at 5 by 7 here. I don't know whether you can just see that. Let me just put this under here. And it tells you in the first measurement in the centre the paper size. So I need a piece of paper or cardstock that's 9.5 inches square. And on this side it gives me score line at 4. All right, so what that means then is that, first of all, I've cut my piece of cardstock, and this is just a piece of linen textured card from one of my paper pads, and I've cut it to 9.5 inches square. So that's step number 1. And then we're actually going to use the board to create the rest of the envelope. So it comes with a score tool. It said to use line 4, so I'm going to line it up first of all at 4 inches. So on this left hand side here, I've gone for my 4-inch mark, and made sure it's all pressed up nicely against that return on the edge there. I'm going to punch it and then in here there is actually a groove to score, okay, all the way down. Now it doesn't come right to the edge, but I'm not worried about that because we're going to cut that little notch out of it again. When I move this, it's notched the side for me. Then I'm going to rotate, and this time instead of going at the 4 again, I'm going to line it up with the score line. So the score line that we've just made here, I'm going to use this little tab here, line it up with the score line, punch, and then score my line in here again. Okay, then we're going to turn, and because I'm on that long side again, you can do either or. If I use the notch to line up on the score line, you'll notice that we are back at 4 inches because we're on that shorter side of the envelope. Punch and score, and then we've just got the remaining side to do, which again is going to go way past because this is the longer side there. And again, I've lined it up with that little notch, punch and score. All right, so I don't know whether you can see now on there, we've got that nice rectangular shape there for my size of my envelope, which was just slightly larger than 5x7, remembering that this is meant to fit a 5x7 card inside. And then the last thing that I like to do with this, it has a corner rounder on the outside of the punch, and I like to go around and just do all the corners there. I just think it gives a nice finish. You don't see all of them by any means, but it's just habit. It's there, so I tend to do, oh, I've already done that one, haven't I? Yeah, there we go. Got a bit carried away there. So we'll just get rid of the little bits there, and that is my scoring and punching done there. So pop that back in, pop that away, and then we've got a little bit of folding and burnishing to do. So I've got my burnishing tool at the ready, and where we've got those score lines, I'm going to fold along the score line there and just give it a little burnish to teach that card what we want it to do. I'm going to do the same on the opposite side there. I'm going to bring up one of the long edges and burnish, and then fold the top one over and burnish, and without any to do at all, you've got your envelope there. Now I just made a slight adjustment to mine. All right, so this is going to be the top edge of the card, and I'm not particularly fond of this bit here in the envelope. Now if it's a paper that I'm using to make an envelope, I normally just run a little score line across it and fold this in, but on this instance I'm going to actually take away that surplus card. So what I'm going to do is grab a ruler and a pencil, and it's not easy for you to see there. Now let me just pop some white card behind there so that you can see what I'm doing. All I'm going to do, I've put the side flaps over the outside here so that I can see where they cross that back flap there, and I'm just going to use my ruler like so, pop a little line from there to there. So I've gone from where this piece crosses and where this piece crosses. Okay, and I'm just going to trim that away. As I say, it's a personal thing, it's not necessary, it's just me and my sort of finishing off. So all I'm going to do now is take my scissors, and I'm just going to come slightly this side of the line because I'm lazy, and it means I don't have to cut away the I don't have to rub away the pencil line. And you can see when we pop it back together now, we've got that nice finish. Now she said she wasn't going to rub it away, but I can still see a little bit of pencil line. So you know what the OCD is like. I do need to just erase that bit. So that's going to be our envelope. So this is the actual, you can see here, if I bring this one back in, we've got that style of envelope. We've got the two sides folded in first underneath. Then we've got our piece at this side that I've just cut. And then this is the piece that's going to fold over the top. Okay, so you can see we've got that design at the ready. All right, so let me just pop that one back up there out of the way. And I just want to grab my twine while I think on, because otherwise I'm going to forget all about it. I think I'm just going to go with some natural twine for this one when we get there. So the next thing that I want to do is cover the panels. So I didn't bother with the back of it. You can if you wish, if you're making it into more of just a gift envelope. I left the back of it the plain cardstock, but I did cover the 4 panels with some coordinating cardstock, and this is from a really, really old, I've had this paper pad years. I loved it so much that I bought 2 of them and I think it was from it's a Dove craft paper pad, so I think it's either from Hobbycraft or The Range, which are probably the two largest craft stores that we have here in the UK. It's called Sweet Paris, and I used this to make a mini album for my daughter years ago, and as I say, I loved it so much that I actually bought a couple of packs of it. So I've taken this first one, and I've got a piece of that to use for the front cover. I just love the combination of colours in here. I love the cream background, which is why I chose the cream base cardstock, and then it's got that gorgeous sort of peony pink with the green leaves and then the brown in there, so that sort of almost gave it a little bit of a shabby chic kind of feel. So we're going to use that for that front panel. I also chose this one, and there is a Paris theme running through it, which is just incidental in this case. So this is the cream and brown, that's going to go on the inside panel. And then I chose this one here, and that's what we're going to use for those two shorter side panels. So the first thing I want to do is get those stuck down so that they can be drying. So I'm going to use my all-purpose glue. Make sure we can get that glue out of there. It always just skins over the top there when it dries. And we're going to start with the front one here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover right up to the score line here with my glue. So I'm going directly onto my envelope sort of card base and put a light covering of the glue all over there. And then this one I'm going to lay over the top, and I'm going to take it right up to the score line but not over it, so that when you fold it back, this should be level, nice and flush with the outside of your envelope, so that there's none of it showing. There is a little bit top and bottom. I just cut it slightly wider than what I need, and then when that's dry, I'm going to cut out round the flap there so that we've got that piece covered. So that's step number one. Give that a good secure on there, give it a good burnish to spread that glue out, and then we're going to do exactly the same on this side. So again, I'm going to add my all-purpose glue. It gives strength to the project. You've heard me talk, if you follow my channel, you'll have heard me talk about this before. It's one of my favourite glues, and when it dries so hard that it's like having another layer of cardstock. So this time, making sure I've got the orientation right, because both my papers have an orientation. This one's going to sit on this side, and again, I just want to make sure that I'm working the right way, and then just wriggle it right up to that score line again, but not over it. And again, fold it back down to make sure that it's running nice and flush along that outside edge, and we'll give that one a press. Okay, and then again, we're going to trim round these when the glue's just started to cure a little bit. So while we're working, then we can do the top and the bottom. So again, same process here. If you don't have the all-purpose, or if you're not a wet glue fan, you can use your double-sided tape for this part of it, or your tape runners, whichever you prefer. And again, this has got a slight orientation to it, so I'm going to make sure that they're both facing the same way. And again, I'm going to line this one up with that bottom edge there, up to that score line, exactly the same as we've just done, making sure that when it's folded, we've got that nice flush edge at the bottom. Spread out the glue, and then we've got the top one. All right, so we're going to do all 4 panels on here. Now, yes, you could cut this out of a piece of pattern paper and back it with some cardstock if you wish, and work sort of in reverse order, but then all 4 of your panels would have the same print on them. So it's entirely up to you how you want to do this. There are several different ways of doing it. This one, again, I'm just going to make sure it's nice and level. So you want that sort of, when you run your finger on here, you want to make sure that it's nice and level with the edge of the design. And then we've got those good to go. So I'm going to go back to the beginning now with my large scissors, because that first one's had time for the glue to start and cure. And I'm just going to run my scissors along the edge of the card here, and just keep them at a slight, rather than having them up straight, at a slight angle means that you can feel the edge of the cardstock there and not actually cut away the card. And then I'm going to go back down this side. So again, just popping the scissors so that I can feel the envelope, and then running it down the side. And we are going to tidy the edges up, you know, so if you're not the best at cutting a straight line, don't worry, I'm going to go for your little trick to tidy the edges up. Okay, you can keep these pieces in the scrap pack if you wish. Okay, but we don't need them again for this project. I'm going to do the same. I'll tidy the little corners up in a second. I'm just doing the long lines with my long scissors, and then I'll swap, I think, to the shorter scissors to do the other lines. So again, one, whoops, down this one, across the edge here. That bit's been a bit friendly. Oops, very friendly. Just make sure I've not got glue on there. And then we're going to do the same with these, and then I can tidy up those little edges because I've not got the rest of the paper in the way. So just tilting those scissors slightly, and as I say, don't worry if it's not perfect, because we've got a little trick to just neaten off all the edges. And again, down this one, I can actually get to that edge now, so I'm going to follow it round. And take that whole piece away there. Okay, and then last one, we're going to come up here and then take it round that panel here. So just trim up as close as you can get. Just take it round the corner there. And we've got those bits out of the way. So these are all scrap pieces now. We don't need to keep any of those now. And then I'm going to swap to my smaller scissors, just because these are little tiny pieces now. I can just get in here a little bit better and snip away those extra pieces there. So just take your time and work your way around all the corners. I've got one here. I've got one this side. So you don't want to be able to see any of the paper when you've finished on the inside of it here. It's just neatening those edges up so that you've got your envelope shape back when you've finished. But those little scissors just fit in there much easier than the big ones. Okay, so we'll get rid of the scraps. And you can see then from the front, if I go back to the front, we've got our top and bottom, our side, and our main sort of focal part of the design. So what I'm going to do now, just to tidy those edges up, is I've got a little tiny piece of sandpaper, which I've just used well, sort of a circle, and used one of my blending tools just to pop this on. And what I'm going to do is take each one in turn, and from the outside, I am just going to go all the way round. So this does a few things. It's a great little tip for anything like this, because first of all, it neatens up the edge. Like I said, don't worry if your cutting's not perfect. Second, it helps seal those edges, because we've got the paper coming right up to the edge of the shape. It helps to seal them. And third, it exposes just a little bit of the fibre on the edge of the paper here, and we're going to add some ink in a second, so the paper receives the ink really well when those fibres are exposed. So I'm going to do that on all the edges that we've just done. It just takes a few seconds. If you haven't got the the sandpaper, you can use an emery board for this, a nail file. I know some people have got the little sanding blocks. I've got one of those that I use for larger projects. But it doesn't take long. It's just that little finishing touch. And this is what I think changes your sort of projects from handmade to what I call handcrafted. You can just see there on the green where it's actually just taking the edge off the paper there and exposing the fibres in the paper. And this will receive that ink. We're going to use some vintage photo ink in a second, which is one of my favourites for kind of aging paper and giving it that more sort of vintage look. So again, last one round there. So if you have got any little sort of sharp corners where you weren't so hot with the scissors, this bit just takes everything back into the right shape. And I'm just going to make sure all those fibres are clear from the table. And then I'm going to bring in my ink. So I've got the Distress ink in Vintage Photo. It's my go-to one. It never goes away, this one. And I'm going to go all those edges that we've just sanded. I'm just going to quickly go around with the ink, and you can see now how it's picking up. Again, if I put the white underneath it, this is the edge without the ink. And this is the edge where it's just gives it that little bit of a vintage feel to it. So we're going to go all the way around, and I'm just doing those exposed edges. This is going to be the front parts of the card. And again, once we've got that one, we're just going to continue all our way around. And again, it doesn't take very long. It's just these added little extras, I think, that finish your projects off. Brings everything together because we've used three different pattern papers on 4 different panels. It just gives them unity because they've all got that same treatment to the edge of the paper. So it brings everything together as if it was meant to play nicely together instead of it just looking like oddments. And again, you know, if you're not sure about the papers, like I said before, if you take papers from the same paper pack, you should be fairly secure in the knowledge that they will all play nicely together. So we've got 1, 2, 3 and 4. And you can just see now how it looks as if it's one, you know, piece that's holding the design. So what I did next, I actually did it before I put this piece of paper on. I worked out where I wanted my magnet to go on here. And I added the magnet to this side before I put this piece of paper on. But as I say, I'm going to show you a different closure today, just in case you don't have the magnet. So what we're going to do today is take a length of twine, and take quite a decent length. And we're going to pop this around the side here, like so. I think I'm just going to use one layer of it, yeah, like so, so that it comes right across the centre here. Now, yes, you're going to see it on the back, and if you have a problem with that, you can always back it with another piece. I'm not too worried about that. But what I'm actually going to do is secure this in place here, because this is where our main focal point is going to go. So it's going to cover that piece up so that it's anchored and it doesn't fall apart when you sort of open the design. So I'm just going to use some double-sided tape, and I'm going to go for a piece of my red line tape because I know that that is nice and strong and it will do the trick. And I'm just going to eyeball the centre there where it comes across the middle of that piece here, and then underneath where I know my embellishment's going to go, I'm just going to secure that. Now, I'm not too worried that the rest of it is loose. Okay, this is just an alternative way of you actually dealing with the closure. All right, so yes, this bit's going to be loose. You can secure it at the back, like I said, if you wish, and then put another piece of pattern paper, or you could map this if you wanted to write a sentiment on the back, a message to the back, but that's going to be that main part. So the next piece I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this structure inside so that we've got this bit sealed. So I actually want my 2 edges to go in first and then this one on top. See? So the first thing that I'm going to do is just mark where they meet on the back of the cardstock. So I've just done a little tiny sort of arrow here, and then I'm going to borrow this is just a blank gift card that I use for crafting. My hubby used to work for a company called Argos in this country before he retired, so he brought me a stash of these just to use you know, for this purpose. So what I'm going to do is look roughly where I want that to sit so that there's some of it showing, like so. And then I am going to run a line of my red line tape underneath it. Like I said, if I don't stop this from sliding, this is just going to disappear down the back of the envelope, which I don't want. Okay, so I am going to pop where I want this to go, and I'm going to center it the best I can in the envelope there. Make sure it's running parallel here. Open this up again, and then I'm going to run my piece of tape underneath the bottom of here like so. And we're actually going to seal that envelope closed. I'm also going to put some tape on the back of this panel so that it will stick to here. So I just want to run a couple of pieces, and again, you don't necessarily need the red line tape, it's just that I have it out handy and I know that it's going to do the job, and I know it's going to stay where I put it. If you've got ordinary double-sided tape, or if you've got a tape runner, or you could use the wet glue, you know, your choice for this. I just happen to have that handy, so we're going to go with it. So give that a burnish. We're going to take the release paper off that one first, and I'm going to pop, this should just catch those two side pieces. What I will do before we get too far is rub those pencil marks out, because we're finished with those now, while I can still get to them. And then I'm going to bring this one up at the same time as sticking the sides. So it's going to catch it here on this one, and then it's going to stick my sides together as well. Okay, so we'll get rid of those, and then just bring this up nice and flat. Give it a press along here, and we've technically got our envelope part, but because we put that seal in it, our gift voucher is going to stay visible where we put it, so that the recipient knows that there's something in there. You know, you may not be sending a gift card, it might be a little note that you're going to put in here. You might want to decorate the outside of this and pop another note card inside, you know, in which case you wouldn't need to seal it. You could pop something in that was the right size in there. So that's the main part of the inside done. And then I am just going to tie this now. So I had my magnet on here on the first side, so that when I click this closed here, it actually stayed closed. But as I say, I was just going to give you an alternate way of doing it. So what we're going to do is tie this off now, so that I've got it closed and flat, and I can work with it. The double-sided, the inverted tweezers come in great as a third finger there when we want to hold something together. I think I went a bit overboard with the twine, but hey, we can manage. And then we'll just trim off, leave them reasonably long, the edges there. So that's going to be the closure then. I might trim them a little bit more when we've finished. There we go. And then I'm going to work on that focal point on the front. So I've got one or two bits prepared for that, because I wanted to focus mainly on the envelope to show you how to make it. So I've got lots of bits and pieces in here. I'll show you what I've used to die cut them. The first layer is going to be this large circle, if I can get it out. Decided to, there we go. So this one, these are just out of my stash, and they're 3 different sets of nesting dies. I've got a decorative set here, I've got a scalloped edge set, which is an old Spellbinders set, and I've got a stitched edge. So I've just chosen some paper again from that same paper pad. It's just got a very, very faint polka dot, and I've cut that large circle. That's going to be my outside layer. Then I cut the scalloped edge in some pink, and then I've cut the plain stitched edge circle in cream cardstock, and we're going to build these up. All right, so I've already stuck the cream one to the pink with some foam dots, and I've got foam dots on the back of this one to create a little bit of depth in it. So that's going to be the main sort of landing point for the focal area. I've also got a ticket stamped ready. We're going to add this in the back as a little bit of detail. And then I've dug my double-sided dies out. I haven't used these for a long time. These are a Crafter's Companion product, and these were designed again a fair while ago and patented so that there was only Crafter's Companion could use this kind of double-sided technology. And I've used the Cosmos flower here. It's a favourite one, and you get the die. If you haven't come across these before, they cut two sides at once. So you do need special plates in your machines, and those of you that use these will know what I mean by that. It does say on the back of the packets that you will need the double-sided plates that Gemini made specifically for this particular range. And what happens is you put, for example, if I've got a few scraps left here. So let's say we wanted to do this side in the green, and then we wanted to do this side in the pink. And then you pass this through the machine together and it cuts out both elements at the same time. Fantastic technology. And what happens is you end up with something that looks like this. So I had the full side, the solid, in a pale pink. And then I did the outline side in a slightly darker pink. And then the same with the centre. I did this side in a slightly darker shade. In fact, it was the leftover scraps from the card itself, the envelope, and then I've used a lighter cream to cut the double side, and we've stacked this up, and then I've put a little bit of shimmer over this with my sparkle pen. It's not obvious, it's just catching the light a little bit there. So that's going to be my main flower, and then there's also a lovely leaf in that one as well. So again, you've got the solid and then you've got the veining on the other side. So I've used that one to make my leaf. Oops. These are all down in the bottom here and don't want to play today. There we go. You can see it's just got a slightly darker die cut for the veining on the leaf, which just makes it look a bit more 3D. And then I've been around the edge of some of these pieces, not with the sandpaper, Jan, with the vintage photo, just to age them again. So that's going to be my leaf. And then I've got my little sentiment here as well. I just use my banner die and one of my stamp sets to create a nice little sentiment. So let's pop all those back to one side. But again, you know, as always, if you don't have the products that I've used, have a look through your stash. This could be a piece of decoupage, it could be a stamped flower. You may not want a flower, you may want a butterfly, you may want a dragonfly, you may want something totally different. You know, think outside the box. And then what we're going to do is we're going to layer these together to go on our focal point, like so. So let's start popping those together. And now we've got the relative pieces. So on here, this one's going to go on first. And I'm going to centre this roughly, maybe slightly closer to this edge than I am this one. But I only want to put glue in certain places. So first of all, I'm going to take advantage of what we did here and use the red line tape. See, as it's already there, that can catch the middle of the shape. And then I'm going to put the glue on here rather than on the die cut, because I know that it's going to cover roughly top and bottom in that area. And then I'm going to pop this on with my tweezers so that I know where my landing point is. And as I say, I want to come slightly further over to the right, and then I'm going to try and centre it the best I can in between those two layers. Not worried if it's not perfect, but what you don't want to do is stick it to this side, because obviously this is the bit that's going to open again when we do the reveal at the end with the twine. So that's that one. And then I have got the little backers to take off my foam dots here. So whatever you've got handy, just take those off. And then I am going to add, it's not that I don't trust the foam dots, I always say this, but anything that's on double-sided sticky, double-sided adhesive, over time can start to dry out. So just by adding a drop of the wet glue over them, that wet glue then seeps into the card underneath it, so you're getting a bit more longevity with that adhesion there. So I'm going to sit that one nicely, that just fit nicely in that stitched edge on the decoration there. And then this one, I'm going to go with this sort of this way, and I've put a couple of the foam dots where the edges of it are going to come off the edge of that piece here. I'm actually going to double these up because we had foam dots under the cream layer and under the pink layer. I'm actually going to double these ones up so that they're at the same height. So I'm just going to take my little dots wherever they've disappeared to, there they are, and literally double those up so that we've got the same height to work with there. Nice and easy. Then take the backers off those ones. I'm going to add the glue again just to make sure we've got that real nice long stick going on, and then the rest of this is actually going to be attached to the cream circle. So I'm just going to put some glue behind the rest here so that that catches onto here, and then when we're ready we can decide at what angle. So I'm just going to lay this in place because I want my sentiment to come across the top here like this, and then I want this piece to just sort of tip round the edge of it. So I think about there. Pull that piece out again. So I've got my 2 glue dots under here and then the glue under the rest of it there. And then I also want to slot my leaf in. So that one's going to go in the back here. I'm just going to snip a tiny little bit off the bottom here. And then I'm going to put glue on the back of this one and stick that one down as well. So just some little dabs of that embellishment glue, and then we're going to slot this one underneath here so that that comes out from behind the flower like so. Now I did have some ticket. I've sort of stuck this one down slightly different. So what I might do, let's see if we can get, in fact, before that sticks, because it was slotted underneath this one, let's just lift that one up a second before that sticks down permanently. And then what I'm going to do is just take the bottom edge, and this has just been stamped onto a piece of scrap paper from that same collection, so that I know everything's going to match. And then I stamped over the top of it with one of my ticket dies, a little bit of glue, and then just for added sort of interest, I'm going to pop this one right underneath, slot it right under the edge here. Again, it doesn't need to be that visible, it's just another bit of detail in there, like so. There we go. And then the last bit is going to be slotted in my sentiment. So I've got a tiny piece of tape on the back of here. And that's going to make contact with the circle. The rest of it's going to overhang, so I'm not too worried about that piece. And that one's just going to slot so that that petal just sort of frames the outside edge there of the sentiment. Absolutely gorgeous. I love that. I think it's really nice. It's something different and probably not expected by the recipient. They would think it's a card, and you know, there's obviously a bow there. We'll open that in a second. The last thing that I'm going to do is pop some pearls on there as well. Okay, just to finish it off. So these are my Dreamies pearl collection. I use these all the time. I'm going to take a large one, a medium one. I love that they come in different sizes, and a couple of small ones. Now I normally do an odd number of pearls, but when I laid these out it just didn't work. If you have a look at this one, I've got 3 here and 1 here, and I was all over the place where to put the last one because Jan, you always work in an odd number. And I thought, you know what, it doesn't matter. You know, the rule of 3s, the rule of 5s, crafting does work with odd numbers. But it didn't work, and I tried it up here and it just disappeared. It just got lost in the rest of the pattern. So I stopped at the 4 and told myself that, yeah, that was actually okay. So we're going to do a similar kind of layout. We're going to bring one down here. I'm going to do a couple underneath the sentiment and just that one. Again, always through the sentiment, just to drive your eye to that detail. I'm going to go in the order of the sizes, so the small one at the bottom, then the medium one, then the larger one, and then that other tiny one right up at the top there. So I'm happy with that. As I say, it is only 4, but there's no rule that says it has to be an odd number. Okay, and that's pretty much our design finish for this one. So once you've got your twine here, you can open this up and reveal the gift inside. All I did under here in the original one was add an extra little stamp, so that when they pull the gift card out, they've got that. So it was sent with love, just for you. Again, optional. You know, you may want to do that, you may not. So that one went in there. And if you wanted to put the magnets in, as I say, it pays to do that before you put this piece of paper on. And then all I did was just die cut a little circle out of some of the scrap, and I've stuck it over the magnet here, so that I'd got just a decorative piece rather than a metal magnet showing. So again, you know, just those finishing little touches that just make the difference with everything. And that was the design. So this one, like I said, we've got our tie closure. I know not everybody will have magnets in the stash, so if you don't, this is an alternative for you. Use those tweezers to give you that extra helping hand. And we've got that one at the ready. And then I will just talk you through how I added, I think they perhaps want to be just a little bit shorter now we're finished. About there will do. So that's the envelope as it is, as a gift. As I say, you may want to mat on the back of here if you wish to cover this up, but I don't mind that. It makes it look more like a gift in its own right. If you want to add the backing on, we're going to need an extra piece of cardstock that matches your envelope. And this one measures 5 5/8 across. So if I pop this here so that you can see. 5 5/8. So I said this was 5 1/8, and all I've done is added 1/2 inch on. We're going to make a 1/2 inch glue tab on the edge of it, and then it's the same height as the envelope, which was 7 1/4. And then all I did was pop it in my scoreboard and put a score line down that long length at 1/2 inch, folded that over, and then I added my tape to it. You can see here, if I lay this one over the top now, this is the size that we've got here. That 1/2 inch is the glue tab, which sticks to the back of the envelope, and when you've scored it, you're going to get a nice fold line in there to create the back of it if you wanted to make it into a card on the reverse of it. And then, just for those of you that may want to do that, my insert was 4 3/4 by 6 7/8. So I've come in 1/4 inch from the outside panel, and I've just stamped, you know, something that was relevant on the inside. I've got tiny little, I don't know whether you can just see the little pink flowers on there as a nod to the one on the front. You know that I like to sort of coordinate them. And then I've inked the edge of it again with that vintage photo ink, so it's all in keeping with what was going on the front. And that was how I made it into an actual freestanding card. So either way, you know, whichever way you prefer, let me know which one you prefer. This could be ribbon. It doesn't have to be twine. It could be ribbon. It could be lace. There's lots of ways of closing this if you didn't want to use the magnets. But yeah, do you have a preference? Do you like it as a card? Do you like it as a gift envelope? And then that little surprise inside there with the gift card. So this could be for, you know, a gift. It could be for a coffee shop. Gift cards come in all shapes and sizes. You know, it could be extra data for a phone. So many different ways. And I love that you could do this as a just because occasion. It doesn't have to be for a birthday or a specific occasion. It may just be to cheer somebody up. It may be that you're arranging to go meet someone and you send them this or you take them this. So for example, if you're going to go meet at the coffee shop, then you could take them this. They've got a gift card to spend in the coffee shop. So again, lots of different ways of doing it. Let me know which you prefer. Do you have a preference between the card or the gift? if you like the idea, and consider giving it a thumbs up for me. It does help with the channel tremendously. And if you have just come across the channel, please consider subscribing. Okay, they are steadily climbing, those subscribers, which I am thrilled about. And I will be back very, very soon with another tutorial for you. So enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll be back shortly. Bye bye now.